Okay, so the first thing with this is let's just read the verse. Luke 17:34 says, Jesus speaking, he says, I tell you, on that night there will be two in one bed. One will be taken and the other will be left. That's the New American Standard Version. So in the King James Version, it does say two men. And I'll read that to you. I'll tell you, in that night there shall be two men in one bed. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Now, in the King James Version, the word men there is in italics, which indicates that the word men was added at the liberty of the translator. So there are several other translations that do not include the word men. It just says two. Now, in the original Greek language that the English version was translated from, two is the word duo. It just means two. It could be two of anything. But I will say that there are some other words in this verse, in verse 34, that indicate that it really was two of male gender. So he says, I tell you, on that night there will be two in one bed. One will be taken. That word one, or the one, in the King James Version, the and one are masculine adjectives to describe a masculine subject. And the other, same thing, they are both attributed to have masculine, to be describing a masculine subject. So have no problem with the King James throwing the word men in that verse. But so here's what we need to understand. That this verse was not written in 2024 in modern United States of America. And so there are some very cultural differences. Now, if we just pick up the context of this verse, it is really talking about the return of Jesus. And, a couple things I want to point out. One is that when it talks about one will be taken and the other will be left, that word other is another of a different kind of quality, a different kind of nature. So there are some very big differences between what it calls the one and then the other. They are not the same. They are different, obviously. If one is going to be taken and the other left, then we're talking about one who is a believer and the other one who is not a believer. But culturally speaking, this is not referring to any kind of a perverted type of a relationship. This is not talking about a man being married to a man. It is not talking about homosexuality at all. In cultures, especially over in the Middle East and during the times that this text was actually written, it was not uncommon for very large families to, share one house, and for multiple members of a family to share a bed. And it doesn't mean that there was anything perverted going on. That was just their culture. And even in cultures today, we still find that, just not so much in America. America is wealthy. America has, most kids growing up today have their own beds, have their own bedrooms. So you don't find that as much here, but you have to understand the context of what was happening when this verse was written, what was going on when Jesus was actually speaking these words. But so how do I explain the verse? I think we've answered really the thrust of the question here. Explain why it says two men. There are a lot of translations that don't include that word men, but I feel comfortable saying that, yeah, even in the King James, it's probably accurate based on other words in the verse that point to both the one and the other being masculine. But I think it is important to note that there is one, and then there is the other of a different kind. And so the thing to really focus on in this verse is we want to be the one. We want to be the believer. We want to be prepared. We want to be ready, right, when Jesus returns. And I believe that he's returning soon. And so this is really a clarion wake-up call for the body of Christ and for the world. As one preacher has said, It's not time to get ready. It's time to be ready. We don't want to be caught off guard when Jesus comes back. We want to be ready and looking for his return, looking for his coming. And you might say, well, what if I don't believe that? What if Jesus never comes back? Well, you know what? I would rather be wrong as a believer, believing that Jesus is going to come back and I'm going to be caught up into heaven to be with him forever in eternity. I would rather be wrong in that way than to be wrong as one who doubts and doesn't believe that Jesus is coming back, and then he shows up. So you can see there's a very big difference between those. But that's how I would explain this verse and just break it out. It doesn't mean anything perverted. It just means, listen, there's going to come a time when Jesus comes back, and there's going to be believers and there's going to be people who don't believe. And those people can be even within the same household. They can even be, people who are possibly very close to one another, but their beliefs separate them, or their belief versus unbelief separates them. So here's the key. You make sure that you're the one who believes, and you are the one who is prepared for the return of Jesus.